Clytus, I'm bored. What plaything can you offer me today?
Hello everybody, you're probably wondering, new opening titles, what's that all about? Well, of course yesterday was Flash Gordon Day, the 40th anniversary of the greatest film ever made. So I thought tonight we'd pay small tribute to Flash. Aha, he'll save every one of us.
That doesn't look like the poster for Where Eagles Dare.
We're off to a good start tonight. I already said to Spencer before the show, I am so completely exhausted today that I forgot to do a promotional poster. Sorry, everybody. I'll do one tomorrow. I'll do one first thing tomorrow. I know, absolutely, honestly. So if throughout this broadcast I'm something like this, and Spencer will just have to literally put his finger across the screen and kind of go like that. Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, that's it. I do apologise. So we got a packed show tonight. After the hobby died on us 2 weeks ago, it's come back with a vengeance, and we've got a number of new releases to talk about tonight. But before we do that, Mr. P, how are you? Finished any models recently?
Well, before I get onto that, today has been a very exciting day for me. After quite a while, I've sort of teased the idea of this, and today has been new cutting mat day.
Oh,
I have a new, unsullied, unbroken cutting mat, which, as anybody knows, any model maker knows, is a very exciting day when you get a new cutting mat for your desktop. So that has been the highlight of my day today, my cutting mat. On top of that, though, I've managed to finish a model. And more importantly, I've managed to finish an aeroplane, which I haven't done since March of this year. So I finally finished Italer's Tornado. There it is in all of its grey loveliness. It's now all done and finally finished. So really pleased to get this thing done and kind of off my bench now, which is good. It's sort of been taken over for the last sort of few weeks. And although I had the bulk of this thing done a couple of weeks ago, the paintwork and the final, I mean, the one thing about this model that's I guess it will sort of live long in the memory is essentially this aircraft is two shades of grey. It's dark camouflage grey and dark sea grey. That's basically what it is. Except the later Tornadoes were all basically cobbled together from a whole bunch of different bits and pieces from other aircraft. So it became a bit of a patchwork quilt. On top of that, I distressed the finish as well and tried to get it as weathered as possible. So that finish took me an awful long time to do, a lot longer than I expected it to do. So, but overall, I'm really pleased with this model. And I have to say that now that it's finished, I'm really pleased with the kit as well. I don't really want to preempt too much what I'm going to write in the book that accompanies this model, but I have to say that overall I think Italeri have really pulled the stops out with this kit. It's not perfect. I've mentioned this all the way through the last 4 weeks. It's not perfect. There are places where it could have been better. There are places where it could have been more detailed. The instructions are absurd in places. I can't describe any more than that. When you're directed by a set of instructions to glue the undercarriage in place in the rear fuselage before you put the wings and the upper fuselage together, you kind of get an idea of where we are with all of this. So there are issues, but overall it looks so cool now that it's finished. It looks like a Tornado. It sits like a Tornado.
The shape is spot on. It really is.
It is absolutely perfect. I can't, there's nothing on this model where I look at it and go, that's slightly off. And I've looked at a lot of photographs of this thing while I've been building it. There are I guess the major issue with this will be the weaponry and the GR4 specific mods that are needed for the kit, but they don't remove too much of the gloss from this. I think it's a very impressive piece of work, and anybody that builds this thing and tackles it as a long-term project, and I put well over 100 hours into this thing, so it will be a long-term project. If you're going to try and wring the best out of it, I think you're going to really enjoy it, and I think at the end of it, you're going to have a model that you want to put on display. It's superb, and it's head and shoulders, I think, above anything else that I've seen of this aircraft in miniature. I think it's the best kit available of the Tornado now.
I think if Italeri, and he said Revell there, see, I did tell you I was exhausted. If Italeri were to take the shape data, shall we say, and use that to make a smaller one, then they really would have the best 72nd scale Tornado on the market.
Yes, I would agree.
That shape is absolutely bingo.
I agree. I although it's a pig to put together, I always thought the shape of their 48th kit was pretty good as well. And I remember I built one of those, and I've seen a few of those built up, and it's and the intakes are a bit of a problem on that kit. But overall, I think the shape of that's pretty good. They're definitely going to make more versions of this kit, so you can expect foreign versions to come. And I, for one, would like to make one of the Italian Wild Weasels out of this with the missiles under the fuselage. I think that would look really cool, and that's now become my favorite version. But yes, so my Tornado is done. It's all finally finished. 4 weeks almost to the day of getting it done, I think, give or take. How long's it been since the festival?
A month.
4 weeks.
Yeah,
1
4
month.
weeks.
4 weeks. So it literally was 4 weeks door to door to get this thing done, and the book will be finished the end of next week, all being well. It'll all be designed and ready to go, so I can get this packaged up and off.
Well, following on for our discussion on Wednesday about model decal, I did come across a model decal sheet for Marine Flieger Tornadoes. Oh, they're just gorgeous in that.
They're great, aren't they?
Grey and kind of very pale grey colour.
Yes,
I
agree.
Pale grey, or is it white? I think it is actually a very, very pale grey. I'm sure Dave Fleming will correct me any moment now.
Is it not called? Is it not called silver grey?
I think it's either that or it's like a basalt grey or something. I'm just winging it at the moment. But anyway, I've got the sheet, and I just keep looking at this, and I think they are gorgeous. They are just.
Yes.
They're not the most colourful Tornadoes, but that's not the point. It's just something about that colour scheme. It's fantastic. And
I think somebody described in one of the reference books as saying that the original Marine Flieger colour scheme was actually the smartest colour scheme ever to be applied to a Tornado. And I think there's an argument for that. But what I really like about those, and the same as the Italian ones, there's something about Tornadoes with those missiles underneath the fuselage. I mean, Cormoran missiles underneath the fuselage of a German one, or Harm missiles, or whatever they are, underneath the Italian ones. They just look punchy. There you go. White aluminium.
Vice aluminium.
Yeah. So they look punchy, and so I certainly think I will build another one of these at some point. I won't do another REF one, though. I don't think. I'll think unless I can do a GR one,
or an F3,
or an F3. Yeah, I was looking at F2s, thinking, could I convert could I build an F2 out of this and get a certain decal artist to cut me some masks for all of the logos.
I tell you what, thanks to Drew who put me onto this material called Aura Mask comes in a great big roll, and brilliant, because you can just chop it to whatever size you want. So when I'm putting it through the cutting machine, I'm literally just cutting like a small section, and I can cut straight onto that small section. But I was using it last week to test fit some what are designs for decals that have to be shaped to wrap around fuselages and appendages, and it's brilliant material. It's really, really smart stuff. So yeah, and it's so much easier to use than vinyl.
Yeah.
So anyway, thanks for that, Drew.
Yeah.
That was a good heads up.
Good one. So apart from Tornadoes, we have a a
Well,
pretty...
before you go on, I also have been doing some modelling this week.
Oh wow!
Yes.
Good man.
For this, honestly, this poor Semavente, I bet it's wished it never chose me as a builder, because I finally got round to actually getting the getting the interior bits all painted and done together. They've been assembled for about the last 2 weeks, but I just haven't got round to painting them. But now, because now from here on in, this is like the gallop. Because now they're in, I can close the hull up, put all the upper pieces into position, and then that's it. We're off. So, despite the fact that not much of this is going to be seen ultimately, of course, I sat there and kind of like did some weathering on it this afternoon, and just generally kind of applied my own personal stamp. Fool that I am, I really should have just buttoned up all the hatches and be done with it. But no, because with something like this, because it's a new kit, and because to some extent you're kind of like, you want to catalogue the features of the kit, is that even though a lot of this interior isn't going to be seen, I've felt the need to paint it, weather it, take some photographs, and then seal it so that nobody ever sees it again. Well, they'll see it through the hatches, but. Yeah, I'm enjoying this kit. I just don't think this kit is enjoying me, because I've been so slovenly and lacking in just modelling mojo at the moment. But now that we've got this far, we're off again. So this is good. So yeah, so we've both been getting some modelling done this week. So I have stuck with this kit since I started it, because. With any project like this, if you start it, you've got to finish it. And what I wasn't going to do was just kind of go, I'll just do something else. No, straight down the middle.
It's kind of tidy, that kit, isn't it? The detail in it's nice and tidy. I having seen it painted, it does look pretty cool. I think it'll look good when it's done. Yeah. But you're always going to come across kits like that.
It's not the kit. It's not the kit. It's me.
No. What I mean by that is
projects.
You're always going projects. Yeah, that's probably a better word. Where you sort of think, oh yeah, I'll have a crack at this and get it going. But yeah, it's nice to see it. Nice to see it with a bit of paint on, I think. And yes, it'll be fine. You'll work your way through it.
I said the other thing that really bogged me down with it was there are construction choices you have to make in order to determine what version you are going to finish it as. And I couldn't make my mind up what version to finish it as. And in the end, I sent a text message to Mr. Farmer, and I said, what scheme do you want? And he said, oh, well, that's up to you. And I thought, that's no help at all whatsoever. So I said, no, Andy, what scheme do you want? And he went, box top one, please. Excellent. Thank you very much. That's it. Yes. Decision made. Yes. Easy. So
it's always good to do. Yeah, it's a lot easier if somebody tells you what to do. It genuinely is. But yeah, it's sort of good to get through those kind of kits.
Shall we move on to our pick of the week's modelling news?
Indeed.
Shall I do that again? So just getting the old Flash Gordon references in there.
Oh, jeez.
You've never seen the film, have you?
I haven't. I really, the best film ever made.
Best film ever made, and the comments are agreeing with me, aren't you? Comments.
Really?
Shall we move on? Let's talk about this week's kids news.
We begin. I've got a very itchy nose. I'm going to sneeze at some point. So. Okay. So we begin with a new release from Meng, who have deviated slightly from their armor kits to produce this thing. Mm-hmm. They're going to make an FA-18E. And I'm assuming at some point they'll also do an F, which would lead us on to the possibility of a Growler, which all of us would be very happy to see, because the Growler is just very cool. And the larger F-18E and F, they're not everybody's cup of tea, because they're sort of like Hornets but on steroids. I really like them. I think they're a really good looking machine, and Meng have obviously decided that this would be a good addition to their range. It's not the first time obviously that F-18s have appeared in 48 scale or 72nd scale or 32nd scale, come to think of it. We've had 48 scale kits from Italeri, from Revell Monogram and Hasegawa in that order of kind of complexity and accuracy. Really, Italeri one is a fairly simplified kit.
It's the oldest one out there as well.
It is, yeah, and it offers quite a low level of detail. The Revell monogram kit is, it's okay. It's it looks like an F18. It's got sort of reasonable degree of detail. Best one of the bunch is the Hasegawa kit in its various incarnations. But it's also the most expensive, and it's also the most difficult to find. Certainly in the UK, Hasegawa kits are very difficult to find on the, whether it's model shops or whether it's going to shows. You don't see a lot of Hasegawa kits in the UK. You can get them. Online. You can buy them online. I think Hanon's probably stock them, but the idea that you can sort of just go to a local model shop and pick up a Hasegawa kit, they are very few and far between in the UK.
We are missing that Amarang touch, aren't we?
We very much
from 30 odd years ago. Yeah,
we are very much so. So when you do see a new Hasegawa kit, it's almost kind of like, ooh, look at that sort of thing. So anyway, Meng have approached this as Meng often do, and it looks like they've added some very neat touches with this. It's highly detailed, as you would kind of expect. Control surfaces are all separate. Looks at wing folds. It's also made a big deal of the fact that it looks like there's going to be quite a comprehensive set of whiz bangs in this kit, and also the possibility as well of having those weapons change on and off. You can unplug them and plug new ones in, depending on what mood you're in. Which kind of led me to remember a piece that Jeff Prentice wrote in Scale Models a few during one of his kind of sub-editorials that he used to do, and he under the name of Icarus, and he was quite snooty about the idea that a guy had produced a model and he put little magnets inside the store so he could clip them in and off the weapons pylons, and he thought that was tantamount to playing with toys. And here we are 40 odd years later, and a mainstream manufacturer is offering that as part of their kit. I kind of like the idea. It'll make attaching those weapons a lot easier. Whether or not it's adds much value to this for modelers who would normally glue things on. I don't tend to load up my models with heavy weapons loads anyway, so that's not necessarily a plus point for me. But certainly from having a look at this kit and having a look at the images that they've put on there are other things that I like. In particular, that the pilot looks great sat in the seat. I think that's really nice with the sort of the current flying suit and helmet that the jockeys wear in these aircraft. So I'm kind of liking the idea of that. Also, there are 4 options within this kit from what we can see for color schemes. This one here is an instructor's aircraft. I kind of like this. It looks like it's either navy blue or black on the upper surface.
What this one is, this is supposed to be Maverick's aircraft from Top Gun Maverick.
Right, okay.
Now, you will notice it has a rather strange star and bar on it.
Yes, I can see that.
It isn't a feature of the real aircraft. If you look at any of the kits that are being produced at the moment for Top Gun Maverick,
yep,
they all have these rather strange stars and bars, which are the invention of a marketing company.
Okay.
So they're not carried on the real aeroplanes. They are purely a marketing branding thing, I think is the best way of putting it. So, yeah.
So Meng have got around any potential licensing of this particular color scheme by making it appear as though it's an actual color scheme.
No, they've done the Top Gun branding, so the actual Top Gun Maverick branded star and bar logo thing. So I don't know whether they actually do have a proper license for it, or I'm not quite sure what the story is here. But yes, if anybody is seeing these Top Gun Maverick kits out there and thinking, why have they got that really strange star and bar in there? They are a marketing branding logo thing, which is not reflected in the actual aeroplanes at all in the film, past or present. So, like I say, make of that what you will. That's
Indeed.
marketing people for you.
Indeed. This one here is Golden Warriors aircraft. This is just 2 shades of grey, as you can imagine, toned down markings. This offers possibilities for heavy weathering on these aircraft, touch-ups, that kind of thing. So that will be kind of nice. I do like the idea of a stripped down one. There's also another one here. This one is Felix the Cat aircraft from VFA 31. And this one is offered alongside a much brighter VFA 31 aircraft, which is this one here. This is a commander's aircraft, as you can see, with the 100 on the nose. I like this. It's quite a smart scheme, and it harks back to a previous generation of aircraft with full colour markings on. And I think this would be the one that I would choose. Why on earth we don't get these as a matter of course, and everything has to be in shades of grey, I don't know, but this is really nice. I think that's a really nice scheme, and I can, it takes me back to sort of Phantoms and Tomcats and that kind of thing that would have carried similar markings and almost similar colour scheme. And it almost looks on there, although it is 2 shades of grey, it almost looks on there on that picture that it's kind of like that gull grey and white scheme. Almost, you can sort of picture that. So overall, I think this is a good release from Meng. It's going to offer modelers another option for those who want to build the larger F-15E. And as I muted earlier on, we're assuming that an F will follow at some point. It would make sense, but we haven't seen how the parts break down, so we don't know how the upper fuselage breaks down and whether or not that is a possibility. But I would imagine it very much will be. So that's Meng's F-18E that will appear shortly. We don't have a release date, and we certainly don't have a price for this kit. But given Meng's releases of late, don't expect it to be a hugely expensive offering, because their kits are sort of in the median of prices often. So I think this will probably follow the price and availability of other similar aircraft kits.
And as always, you can keep up to date by following Meng's Facebook page. We've put a link up on a link on to their Facebook page in the links. Oh, get your teeth in, man. There are links that will be going live after the show, so you can give their page a like and follow them.
Yes,
I did say I'm struggling. The one thing I will say is that I do like the look of. I know some people hate naval aeroplanes with the wings folded. I think they look fabulous, and I think that one there with the wings folded with all the stores on. I'm not really a fan of the F-18 in any iteration whatsoever, but I do like the look of that. But to follow on from something that Drew was actually talking about on the show a few weeks ago, which was, will we one day get a model of the YF-17? I think it would be a fascinating comparison in size between the YF-17 and the F-18E/F, FA-18EF, because the YF, as Drew's mentioned, the YF-17. Oh,
excuse me.
Yeah, this is a quality show tonight, people. The YF-17 was a much smaller airplane than it eventually evolved into. It was more like an F-16 sized airplane.
Yeah,
and so I'm with Drew. I would like to see a YF-17 at some stage, because I think it is a fascinating little aeroplane, and it's part of that F-18 family. So I think it would have. I think something like that would have legs.
Yes,
it would be commercially. It would have legs. So let us jump on to a kit company who haven't had their contractually obliged mention for at least 2 weeks. So here they are. They're back. It's Miniart. It's our friends Miniart, and they've done a number of Panzer IVs in the past. And they've got a whole slew of them coming out in the next few months. But this one caught my eye. It's an Ausf H early production, and it's full interior. Now, if you've not seen these kits, go and have a look on the Miniart website, because you can download the catalogue. Go to the catalogue, you can download images of the interior and everything. And They are absolutely mad. They are. If you want to have something to build for several weeks, if not a couple of months, then go for one of these. This one does include photo etch parts and the side screens. And look at that. For a tank, that's an involved decal sheet. There's stencils and things on that, which I think are obviously for the interior and the shells and other bits and pieces. You do get 3 very interesting schemes in this. There's a nice camouflage one operating in the former Soviet Union. There is also, this is the one I really quite like for odd reasons. There is just an overall sand one. Sand, kind of sand, dark yellow colour. Which, on the face of it, you think, well, come on, JM, that's a bit boring. Why would you find that one to be particularly interesting? But to me, that's the challenge of actually weathering that and making that look interesting. I think that's, I'm beginning to get more and more drawn to single colour tanks than I am camouflage tanks these days. Probably because I'm also lazy as well. But also there is another one operating in the Soviet Union, former Soviet Union, in a nice winter scheme as well, which again offers a fantastic opportunities for weathering. In fact, that if I were to build one of these, that's probably the scheme I would go for. That is rather dandy. But yeah, like I say, they're doing a number of Panzer IVs at the moment, but these are massively involved kits. But in terms of detail and options, they are quite extraordinary. And I think we've said before that I think you and I, we tend to prefer curbside tank kits because we can kind of get on with them. But I think at some stage in the next kind of 18 months to 2 years or so, I am going to have to dip my toe into one of these models where I am going to be spending 2 or 3 weeks assembling, painting and weathering an interior, which I'll never see again. But it will be photographed, so at least I can remember what it looked like.
Do it as a blown up tank with the top all blown away so that you can see all the interior.
Well, then again, when you consider that we've now got all these kits for turret kind of lifting mechanisms and cranes and things like that, there's
possibilities there.
There are all kind of possibilities for that. But yeah, Mini Art, they're back. Well, they never went away, but they're back on this show, which is nice. So yeah, Panzer IV. Do like a Panzer IV.
Who doesn't, frankly? Although I'm
sure somebody. Well, actually, I can tell you who doesn't like a Panzer IV, and that's Drew Manton. Doesn't like German tanks at all. There we go. But he does like YF-17s, bless him. So, moving on.
Oh, love him.
Love him.
Yes, moving on. We come to ClearProp. ClearProp, we've mentioned a few times on this program over the last sort of few months. They've decided to dip their toes into this. This is a 48 scale Curtis Hawk 75. Produced in Argentina under license. Curtis offered them 30 of these aircraft, and then they built another 20 locally. The aircraft differed from the standard Curtis Hawks in having this kind of spatted undercarriage, which allowed rough field operations. And this is the one that they've produced as their kit, as can be seen on the box art. This is a delight.
Yeah.
What an absolutely gorgeous looking little aeroplane, I have to say. And when John sent this over to me today to take a look at, I was instantly taken by the possibilities of that color scheme. Working on how I instinctively tried to work out how I would do the polished panels around the nose and then the duller aluminium around the rest of the airframe. That's just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
I'll tell you something. I know how Jen Wright would do it.
Yes, she would probably do it with real metal.
She would do it with real metal to show us up for the inferior beings we are.
She would actually go out and she would forge it from a block of actual aluminium. She would roll real aluminium really thin, and then she would glue it on and rivet the whole thing with actual rivets. Yes, if anybody's seen any of Jen Wright's videos or you'd like to check them out, please do, because she's been working on some spectacular models. One of which she did was a P40 that she clad in aluminium foil. You've got to have a look at this model. It's really beautiful.
It's astonishing.
It is really beautiful, and it looks fabulous now that it's finished. And it will give you an indication of how you would approach something like this. I really, really like this model, and this is it. This is one that I could conceive of building over the next sort of few months or so. Once it's released, we've had a look at other things from ClearProp, and they are an up and coming company, producing some very interesting subjects, of which this is the latest. Again, as with the Meng F18, we don't have a release date on this. This is the only thing that we've seen so far. From what I could see today was the box art and the announcement, but I would imagine that they'll be putting up more information online as they start working on this. But I would imagine an early 2021 release for this kit is a ballpark. Now that they've got box art done for it, I would imagine that the project is relatively far down the line.
That's one of the things. That's one of the things I have noticed with some of these companies like ClearProp and Dora Wings, and there's the other one whose name escapes me. I do apologise. But they do tend to kind of show box art, and then bingo, the kits are
yes.
out there. Very quickly. They've also ClearProp have also announced this will be released in 72nd scale as well. So for all those people who kind of like, they see this and they go, why are you doing it in 72nd scale instead of 48 scale? Well, you're getting them both.
Yes.
And one would hope that this does presage the beginnings of a Curtiss Hawk 75/P36 family.
Yes,
because it's a fabulously interesting aeroplane. I mean, I have an affinity for the Royal Air Force ones that were operated by Southeast Asia Command, because they have those kind of interesting, essentially Type C roundels, but with the red painted out. So they just have like a blue, yellow and white roundel. But it's a fabulously interesting aeroplane. It really is. And just forms an important link in the history of the P40 ultimately, because that's what it really evolved into. But yeah, ClearProp. That is the very definition of interesting modelling, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. And is it my imagination, or have they also not announced a MiG-23?
We've covered the MiG-23 in the past.
So that's a 72nd scale MiG-23, which they've put quite a lot of images of that, and that thing looks amazing. So they're certainly they're going for it with what look like pretty high quality products as well, which is great. We're really looking forward to this one, and I just think it's a delight. It's only going to be tiny, even in 48 scale. So I think that'll be a really super little model. So we're looking forward to seeing more about that, and as soon as we get more information about that, we will bring it.
I think what we'll have to do on the channel at some stage is kind of do a thing whereby we kind of pick a subject each from companies like Dora Wings and ClearProp, and the one whose name escapes me, and and then just kind of like have a couple of weeks where we're doing like online builds on them, just to highlight these, because these companies, because although they're not, they certainly are mainstream when it comes to the quality, they're just not mainstream when it comes to the exposure. So I think
indeed.
And it gives us a bit of variety as well.
Indeed.
And we're back to Mini-R again. Hurrah! And well, look at this. They've pulled another fascinating must-have product out of the bag. I'm tempted not to say kit, because as I say with these things, with a lot of these Mini-R accessories, you don't really build them as kits. Although I suppose with this, you will build it in its entirety in one form or another. But what you have here in 1/35 scale, you have German Tankman with gantry crane and Maybach HL120 engine. It comes with real chain and a decal sheet as well, including some of it actually written in Russian, which is rather interesting. You get the crane parts, you get the oil drums are moulded in, I think there's 2 sprues for each thing, and there are different stampings on the ends of the drums. And you get 2 fabulous, what look to be fabulous figures. You get the full engine as well, and 2 fabulous figures. The only observation I have sometimes with Mini-R figures is sometimes the seam lines on the heads do run through the most awkward places to get rid of, but it's the same sprue twice. There we go. Made an error there. Sorry about that. But yeah, you do get They can be a little bit tricky to clean up sometimes, but they've started putting resin heads in some of their kits, I've noticed. But as something to kind of kick off a vignette or a diorama idea, isn't that fabulous? I'm just utterly, utterly... How many art do this? I don't know. All I know is that if I was to go out and buy everything they produced, I would have no money whatsoever.
The one thing I like about Mini Art, and seems to be the case, is that they're constantly planning ahead, in that they produce certain products within certain accessory sets, and then you see those products being bundled together in other original releases. So oil drums in this case will have appeared already in oil drum sets. I think this crane may have appeared as part of a garage set. I'm not sure about that, but but what they're doing is that they're using material that's already within their range to create other things. And who wouldn't look at that photograph of that little crane outside like that and not instantly think that there was a vignette straight out of the box from that? And I think that's where their strength lies as well. Their box art is so attractive. Honestly, you could look at it and just go, yeah, I love it. I love everything about that. You know, you're already thinking, how do I build that building in the background and just build that scene? I'll put a little Panzer III on there. I'll build a crane. I'll put a little building in the background. I've got two guys hoiking at the crane. There's my diorama right from the bat. And you also know as well that you're not going to be spending a fortune on an accessory set like that. Most of these Mini Art accessory sets are sub 20 quid. So you're picking them up and being able to produce really nice little vignettes and really nice dioramas with almost minimum effort. And I have to say, by the photograph that you posted of that figure, those figures look great. They look like they're really nicely sculpted and really nicely molded. So I'm with you on that.
But as you say, the thing with Mini Art is they just produce something. And I don't want to use the phrase. I don't want to say they produce something mundane, but they produce something like pianos, and you're instantly thinking, I need to build that. But then your imagination is racing. What can I incorporate that into? What could that form the basis of?
Yeah.
And this is what I love about their range. I mean, their catalogue, bless them, their catalogue is free online. So a bit like Zvezda, you can just go on there and browse and browse and browse. They are incredibly prolific, but they just produce some of the most, and we've spoken about this before, but they just produce some of the most imaginative and inspiring stuff.
Yeah.
That isn't actually what I would call kind of like, kits. They are they are pianos, they are pigeons, they are kind of like beer barrels, but you see these things and you think, that's fabulous.
I mean, I have to say that as well, that the accessory sets they're not time specific. I've been playing on Assassin's Creed over the last sort of 5, 6, 7 years or whatever, and I played on one that was set in Victorian London. And they have dockside scenes in there where basically you've got dock cranes and you've got all these little wooden barrels and boxes and all of that sort of stuff. And I was just playing on the game, walking around, thinking, all of that stuff is made by Mini Art. I could build the building and a little crane and have a couple of Victorian figures chatting to each other, and I could recreate that scene in miniature just using Mini Art's products. But I agree. I sort of agree with you. If this is what you meant, some of their stuff is as dull as ditch water.
Yeah, but
it is incredibly mundane, and yet it's incredibly inspiring, because often the more mundane something is, the more your imagination races to try and work out how you're going to use it. And I love it as a result of that. I agree with you about the prices though. If we bought everything, A, we'd have a model shop in our house, and B, we would be skinned.
Well, it's not so much the prices, it's just the sheer quantity of it.
Yes.
That you just, I want that and I want that and that. And as I say, I would look, you would say to me, well, what would you be more excited about? A brand new 35th scale Crusader tank or a box of pigeons? I'm equally excited about both, but if I walked in there, I thought, a box of pigeons, they're useful. And this is the thing I like about accessory sets, and this is why, like I say, I would, if I had the money, I would just go through the Mini Art range and go, yeah, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. Is that you don't build them as kits. You dip in and out of them. You take out what you want and use what you need. And like I say, Mini Art actually fantastic. I'm just going to play catch up on some comments here. Andy King says Wingsy. Thank you, Andy. Wingsy was the company I was struggling with my exhaustion-addled brain here to try and remember. So thank you for that.
Lad.
I know, exactly. Wayne Beatty says, any word on the Sword Meteor NF14? No, sorry. We will try and chase that up for you next week, but we haven't heard anything on that. Mike Williams says, I have the clear prop, ! Cayman Sea Sprite in 70 seconds to build on the new year. Looks beautiful on sprues. Yeah, I have to say that is one of those kits that I've meant to kind of have a look at, because I've heard very nice words about that. So Mike, in the new year, if you do get around to building that, can you please share your build on the Interesting Modelling Co page, please? Because I think me, like many others, would like to see what that looks like. And again, it's kind of like, it's as much as we do like the big gun manufacturers, I think going off on little tangents and having these slightly kind of, I don't want to use the term smaller because it sounds like I'm being a little bit kind of dismissive, but these accompanying manufacturers, I think is a good way of putting it. It's very keen to kind of like to show more of those off on the page and on the company. Andy King says Mini Art T55s are the best out there. To be honest, yes, they certainly are. Grant Maybury says love the concrete mixers, so useful. Yes, I know, concrete mixers. In fact,
I have one of those kits here.
Well,
actually, I can. Because I got a little pile of these things, but the concrete mixers was the one I was kind of thinking of, and
aren't they fabulous? Look at that.
There it is.
Talking of concrete, I've got the set of the Meng. It's just like Meng road bollards, and it's just things like concrete barriers and things like that. But they actually include a plastic mold in there, so you can actually make your own using plaster of Paris.
Yes.
This is a fabulous idea. I really like that, and I will get round to using them at some stage, because I do have a Meng pickup truck that I built as a kind of I built it as a kind of Libyan liberation vehicle with a big UN flag on it. So I've got an idea to use that for something. And Mike Reeves says, I have 4 sets and 4 get your teeth in, JM. I bought a 4-set and kit set of Mini Art and I've already made a diorama. Well, Mike, if you've done that, please share it to our page. And Anthony Bird says, box of pigeons every time. Absolutely, Anthony, box of pigeons every time.
Although we shouldn't diminish how much you and I are extraordinarily excited by that new Crusader kit.
Yeah, I've got to get my hands on that. I'm not buying any kits at the moment because, like I say, I've got my dance card is full of projects for other people. I don't want to be sidetracked. I need to just get that tunnel kind of vision and get them done and out the way. And then perhaps in the new year, I will get hold of one of those border ones. Although I will get hold of one so that we can actually share photographs and everything on the channel so that we can actually talk about it. So there is an imperative to get one for that, but in terms of building one, not quite yet at the moment. So
indeed,
let's move on to
moving on to we've got a couple of kits from Dora Wings to look at tonight. The first one that we're going to look at, though, is the Vultee A31/35 Vengeance. This, as you may remember, was a Second World War American dive bomber, which I believe didn't actually fly operationally with the Americans, but it was used by Royal Australian Air Force, Indian Air Force, etc., the Royal Air Force. And so Dora Wings have produced a 48 scale kit of this. Oddly, when I was looking into this, there have been quite a number of 48 scale kits of this aircraft and quite a lot of 72nd scale kits. And despite the fact that it's almost a footnote in the history of aviation, it has been kind of widely kitted. I was quite surprised by that. But this is the latest and what looks to be the greatest to be released. And as you can see from these photographs, this is going to be a very detailed new kit from Dora wings of this aircraft. I really like it. I quite like the way that it's quite a pugnacious looking machine, and I think with all of this detail and with the possibilities from where this aircraft was used, that this opens up possibilities for lots of detail to be added within the build, but also to crash through some weathering on these machines. They were very heavily weathered, the ones that were out there. I particularly like the idea of an Australian one, I have to say.
Yes. Well,
I think that would be beautiful.
I have particular memories of the Vultee Vengeance because I've actually got a couple up in the attic of the old Frog kit. Which...
Yes, I looked at that, and that came up on my list. 72nd scale kits from AMCO, ARC, DZI Donetsk Toys Institute, which was a completely new one on me. Eastern Express, Frog, Model Hobby as a VAC form, SMER, Special Hobby, ... loads. Also in 48 scale, kits from AZ, MGD Models, Mastercraft Supply Co, AMCO, etc. All kind of random things, none of which were kind of mainstream. So this is almost the most mainstream that we're going to get of this kit.
Yeah.
And certainly from what we've seen of other Dora Wings kits, you can expect this to be pretty much up there at the upper end of, as John says, accompanying manufacturers. And it will offer plenty of detail, both in plastic and photo etch, and also surface detail will be finely rendered. All of the parts, I would imagine, they've been CAD designs. They'll be cut on high quality tools. So this will be a very nice kit when it finally appears. But you can just take a look at what they're trying to achieve just by looking at the detail in these CAD renders. It's going to be very impressive, I think.
Big aeroplane as well.
Yes, not small.
No.
And that makes it an interesting canvas, as I said, for painting and weathering for those of you who would like to go down that route. And I would imagine in particular, like I mentioned, the Australian Air Force ones, but any of those Southeast Asian operational areas would have caused all sorts of problems for these machines. So I look forward to seeing what the artists among you come up with when it comes to painting these.
Now you mentioned, just to go back, when you mentioned the 72nd scale ones, can you just rattle through those manufacturers again? Because I think a couple of those were actually the Frog kit, just reboxed.
I would imagine, going through them, I would imagine a number of them with that kit.
There was that factory one you mentioned that you said you never heard of.
Yeah, so AMCO, which I think was a company that made identification models for the military, that was one. ARC, DZI Donetsk Toys Institute.
Yeah, I think that is one of the Frog ones. I'm pretty sure that is.
Eastern Express.
That definitely is one of the Frog ones.
Frog.
I'm not quite sure about that one, but
Frog might have been a Frog tool. Model Hobby, which is a VAC form.
Yeah.
SMER.
In 72nd scale, again, that might be the Frog kit.
One.
I might be corrected on that one.
And then a whole raft of kits from Special Hobby, different versions.
That's
obviously they're the sort of the newer ones. But there have been a number of kits of this. But this is, I guess, it's an important release. So and it'll be interesting to see what it looks like when it finally appears. So that is Dora Wings 48 scale Vultee Vengeance. I'll try putting my teeth in so I can say that again. The Dora Wings Vultee Vengeance.
There was actually also a 72nd scale Vultee Vengeance from Revell, and guess whose tooling that was? Frog.
Indeed.
I know. But the thing is one of the things I'll say about the Frog kit is that when it comes to research, when it comes to rescribing the surface detail, there's certainly lots of ribbiting to do. Riveting. I'm gonna. I think after the quality of that joke, I think I really do need to hop it. Anyway, let's move on.
Moving on, we come to the second kit from Dora Wings.
Yes.
And this is a kit that caught our attention thanks to the box art by Elena Stanilovic. This is the box art here.
Oh, look at that.
Hello.
Fabulous.
How lovely is that thing?
Ooh. Lovely.
So Dora Wings are producing a 48 scale kit of the Lockheed Vega 5C. This is the second Lockheed Vega that Dora Wings have produced, because they've already produced the 5B that was made famous by Amelia Earhart, you may remember. And I think her aircraft is in that box, but this is the one that's been produced. So the 5C was differed from the 5B very slightly, had slightly different tail surfaces, that kind of thing, but it was still essentially a 7-seat passenger aircraft, single large radial engine up front, but it's just a glorious design. Now, what sets this apart and the previous 5B is that this is only the second time, to our knowledge, that this kit has appeared in this scale ever. And the previous release being the AMT kit, which is this thing here, which has been on the market for some considerable time.
45 years.
Yeah, which patently puts it within my my sphere of interest. But even I think I might avoid doing this kit in the face of what looks to be a very nice new release from Dora Wings.
I get the funny feeling that more time has elapsed since this kit was released than between when the Lockheed Vega first flew and this kit was released.
Trying to work that out, yeah.
Yeah, I think,
you might be right. Yeah. You may well be right. It's the reason why it's taken so long is they weren't used in thousands. It didn't carry weapons. It's basically a civilian passenger aeroplane, but it's an important design within the annals of the aviation history. Yeah, that was the AMT kit reboxed by Eschi
in the 1990s,
and look at the colour scheme.
And look at the colour scheme. It's Winnie May again. But remarkably, here we are in 2020, and it is still out there. That kit is still out there.
I have to say, that's a neat looking colour scheme as well.
Yep.
That's pretty tidy too. But we have seen these built up though. I've seen a number of these built up at the National Championships.
It's a workable kit, I think, is the kindest thing I can say about it. It's a lot of those AMT aircraft kits from the 70s were rudimentary, I think, is a good phrase. Is
it a workable kit in the same way that Pookie's Pucara is a workable kit, or is this a much more workmanlike kit than?
Let's just say the shapes were there. The overall fit was okay. They were just very, very basic. They're almost like frog kits in 48 scale, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but there's not a lot of interior.
I don't think there's going to be any comparison between this and the Dora Wings kit. It's just light and shade, and shade. And
it is nice to have had the option of the two slightly different variants from Dora Wings. So I think that's a nice choice. People have started. If you look online, you can see some of these kits being made up. I came across one of the 5B being built, and there was some interesting photographs of that, and it looks fabulous. The detail looks absolutely amazing on it. And one guy is doing this overall red color scheme and with a propeller on it that looked like it was actually made of metal.
Yes,
beautiful model. Yeah. In fact, John and I might have a chat about that and maybe bring you some photographs of that build next time, or maybe during our midweek show, so you can see what this thing looks like. We didn't have time to do that for tonight's show, but we'll try and bring you some more information on that. But yeah, it looks great, and how could you not be inspired by that box art? That's some of the nicest box art we've seen in a very, very long time.
Yeah,
that's absolutely beautiful. So that is Dora Wings 48 scale Lockheed Vega 5C.
Any other business, Mr. P?
Yes. Can I introduce a new feature to the proceedings called the Rumour Mill? And what I think we might do with these is just things that we caught in passing before we could deal with anything in more detail. And one of those things that I caught yesterday was that we're about to see a 30-second scale cetacean being released as a plastic kit, from what I can gather. So I'm going to just drop that into the conversation. That is a possibility. The idea of a 30-second scale kit of one of the most glorious business jets ever made is I think really interesting. It'd be interesting to sort of see how that looks. But I'm going to add that into, for now, the rumor mill, because we have nothing more concrete on that. We did mention something last week, I think, and it slipped my mind as to what this model is. Somebody is, it was the Wingnut Wings, whether they've taken over the tool, whether Meng have taken over all of the tools of Wingnut Wings. So we'll add that into the rumor mill as well. Yeah. We'll put that into there. So we have no concrete news on that. But yes, something that came in passing was a 30-second scale cetacean, which I thought was a very interesting possibility. There we go.
Obviously, throughout the week, if you, I feel like Shaw Taylor now on Police 5. If you know any information about this crime, please get in contact. People would be googling that now. So, what's he talking about this week? Always some kind of obscure 1970s pop culture reference. Don't worry about me. Yes. Is that if you come across anything that you think that's new, that's interesting, we need to talk about that on the show, then ping it to us on Messenger or ping it up on our Facebook page, and we will endeavour to include it next week. As you can see, we've only had 6 items tonight, and it eats up the time very, very quickly.
Yes.
So yes, do keep us. If you see something interesting, do please let us know, and we will endeavour to include it in the show. I'm just having a quick look at. Oh no, they're all good. They're all doing whale jokes on the comments now, so I'm not even going to repeat those. Yep, and we will be back on Wednesday for our midweek social, which should be fun. And again, as ever, if you have answering your modelling correspondence. So if you have any questions or comments or things that you would like answered, then either send it to us in advance or on the night, just ping a message up there, and we will do our best to respond with a modicum of sense and sensibility, but I can't guarantee it, really. It's
hasn't happened yet, has it?
We try our best. We try our best, absolutely. And of course, the most important thing of the week is everybody's probably wondering what mince pies we consume this week. So, what mince pies have you consumed this week, Mr. P?
I had mince pies for dessert this evening with brandy sauce, which was very nice, and I had some mince pies last week as well. I think I had some on Wednesday when I spoke to you. I'd already had some on Wednesday, and I definitely had them on Thursday as well because we had some left over. So I've had mince pies 3 times this week.
Well, I managed to have a nice trip out to a Bitten railway station yesterday, which was open. It was all very safe and socially distanced and etc. But I had a nice cup of takeaway tea and a warmed up mince pie. And when I say warmed up, we're talking about hotter than the centre of the sun, which was very nice. And then got back and watched 2 episodes of the classic BBC television series, The Box of Delights. If you've never seen it, it's an absolute gold standard classic. And from Aldi, I had, check this out, salted caramel mince pie.
Oh, wow.
Salted caramel crumble mince pie.
What?
And I know, and a blood orange crumble mince pie. I know.
Preposterous nonsense is this?
I am tempted to. Put some photographs up of those because they were both delicious. There's probably people tuning in now going, "I'll just watch that modelling channel." Why are they talking about mince pies again? It's just.
I'm looking at my watch, wondering whether or not our local Aldi is still open, and of course it isn't because it's a Sunday night.
It's a Sunday night.
So I may have to take a wander over there tomorrow and see if such things are there.
I'm still on the lookout for the Walker's Glenfiddich mince pies because they are my... Well, I was going to say they are my yearly treat, but unfortunately, because this year I won't be sharing Christmas in this house with anybody because I've unfortunately, defer next year. So Mr. Manton will not be travelling up for our annual Thingathon, which is, or Thingathon even, which we won't go into, but Thingathon, which is where we sit down and we watch the original 1951 Howard Hawks version of the film The Thing from Another World. And then we watch the John Carpenter 1982 film of The Thing, and we forget the 2011 prequel because it's dreadful. And usually that's when considerable amounts of Glenfiddich mince pies are consumed. But, you see, it's just been me and the cat here eating them, which...
Yeah, but Derp would probably help you in quite a considerable way to munch through mince pies. You might have to look after the poor thing afterwards, though.
I will only quote. Probably we're going to overrun tonight. No mind. I'll only quote one of the funniest things I ever heard from the late great comedian Jeremy Hardy, real hero of mine, lovely bloke. And he said the thing once about the difference between dogs and cats. And he said if you fell on the stairs and kind of like broke your back and you were lying there waiting for rescue, he said the dog would nudge the phone towards you, trying to assist so that you could phone an ambulance. Whereas a cat would just sit there with a very annoyed look, wondering how hungry it would have to go before it eats your face. And I just remember thinking that is so true.
Yes, indeed.
So,
well, there was a photograph of a chap who was being arrested in the United States, I think, and the police officer got him face down at gunpoint. And when the photograph was taken, one of the local cats had taken residence on his back and fallen asleep. That's how much cats care about your predicament at any particular time. So yes, they are truly a law unto themselves.
Oh, Anthony Bird says Walker's Pies ordered direct from Walker's on your recommendation. Oh, apparently I can order them direct from Walker's, so we will look into that next week. Anyway, look, we are out of time, and I'm sure
Indeed.
people have thought we've spent more time tonight talking about mince pies than anything else. But we will be back on Wednesday. We'll be talking about mince pies again there as well. So it just remains for me to say thank you for watching. Thank you for watching this disjointed, amateurish nonsense tonight. And
Slightly.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's been fine. It's been very good considering that I've literally
One of us is half asleep.
No, I'm fine now. Honestly, I shall. Don't look. I've had a long day of painting models, and that's pretty much it, really. It remains for me to say, obviously, we're still stuck in this dreadful situation. So please, everybody out there, stay safe, stay out of trouble, do your bit, and hopefully we will start to emerge from this situation. So, from myself and Mr. Pollard, thank you for watching. We'll be back on Wednesday. And it only remains for me to say, Gordon's alive!